They looked at him, gray compound eyes seeming to look straight back at him, even though he knew they were likely paying most attention to their assigned area. Cavill spoke up in greeting, "Good morning, Private. I appreciate you getting here a bit early." The woman twitched her antennae in a casual way that told him she was only partially paying attention to him. Her name was Joanna, and she was the youngest member of his crew. A skilled loader, she was also adept at maintenance. She could often be found spending time maintaining the vehicle with Haggy, the two seemingly made to get along well. He suspected that their relationship might run a bit deeper than that, but did not dwell on it. If they wanted to get to know each other, he had no right to get involved, as long as they maintained an air of professionalism while on duty, of course. His preliminary checks completed, Cavill climbed from his crash couch to the rear area of the tag. He wanted to make sure they had a full ammo stowage. It would be important that they had the proper loadout. He checked the partially armored wet racks, the ammo being surrounded by expanding oxygen inhibitors and ignition suppressants. That way, if the vehicle was to be penetrated by enemy fire, the ammo would likely fail to detonate in its racks. This was not a perfect method, of course, and so it was still recommended to evacuate the vehicle in the case of ammunition destruction. Just in case. Looking at the racks, he nodded to himself. They had a full load of ammo, 24 rounds of varying types in 3 rows of 8 and 1 in the ready rack. The preloaded round looked to be a high explosive variant, likely fine as he didn't see an issue with it. If they needed to fire a different type of shell first, then that could be annoying, but the chances were low of that being the case. The ammunition looking correct, Cavill then moved back to the main crew compartment and then out the top hatch. As he poked his head through the hole, he noticed another figure scuttling closer. It was Freddy, his secondary loader and radio operator. In most armored vehicles, the commander would be the radio operator as well, but due to the conditions inside the tag, it was advantageous for the commander and radio operator to be on opposite sides of the vehicle. Hence the strange allotment of tasks. Freddy neared and gave him a 2-armed wave as he saw Cavill in the open hatch. "Good morning, Commander. I trust we are on schedule to depart? I tried to get here earlier, but was held up in the command sector with new orders for you," the man said as he reached the vehicle. He clambered up the side of the vehicle effortlessly and handed Cavill a manila envelope, the old-style paper documents a common sight to him due to the tag's allotment of nuclear arsenal. Due to the prevalence of cyber attacks and spying, it was common procedure to give instructions to such powerful armaments in a form that could not be overheard or stolen. Thus, the paper documents. The only way to see his orders were to be the ones physically holding them, and they were also easily destroyed in case of capture. It was seen as a useful, if a bit archaic, method of keeping secrets. He took the envelope with a nod and opened it as Freddy crawled into the tag through the secondary command hatch. Leaning an arm against the vehicle's pintle-mounted 10mm repeating railgun, he read his new orders. He had originally been tasked with following a patrol to the contested front where they would be called to an active fire support role. It looked as if that position had already been filled, however. Instead, his new orders were to take a light escort to the secondary contested zone to the east and bolster the morning's counterpush. They had been heavily shelled the night before and were expecting the rebels to make a concerted push sometime in the next few days. It would be his job to soften the enemy up a bit before a preemptive strike. This suited him just fine. All it meant was that they would get into the thick of it a bit sooner. They would likely start shelling before lunch. He wondered to himself if they would receive a resupply so as to keep fighting all day, or if they would be returning to camp when they had expended their main ammo reserves. The question was important, but not one he could expect to answer sitting around in the artillery park. They would need to get out on deployment to figure this mystery out most likely. He folded the envelope and tucked it into the inner pocket of his military uniform. Not that he didn't trust the others with the document, but his orders were to keep such information close to his chest after all. He gazed over the rear of the vehicle and saw Haggy tinkering with the exhaust manifold of the main engine. "Haggy, finish it up, we are leaving in the next 22 minutes," he ordered. Haggy seemed to talk to himself quietly, the faint hiss of expelled air the only discernible sound from the man as he worked. After a moment of this, he turned and looked up at Cavill. "Oh, yes, I will be done in only another minute or two. We should be good as it ISS possible to be. The old man ISS running well like normal." Cavill was happy to hear that. It meant one less thing to worry about during deployment. They had never had a catastrophic breakdown on deployment yet, but it was always a minor possibility, one he had no wish to encounter. And so he let Haggy and Joanna tinker with the tag as long as they always put it back together again when they were done. As a result of this, his Thunderscream was likely the most smoothly running heavy assault gun in the whole planetary battle zone. He felt a bit of pride at that. It was only right after all, the Union fielded hundreds of similar vehicles across the massive warfront, but in all of them only a few were armed with tactical nuclear weapons. He and his crew were one of the only ones allotted the ability to carry tactical nuclear weaponry in their camp. He started from his thoughts as the heavy clunk of an armored panel closing behind him made him turn. Haggy seemed to be done on the engines, his body streaked with grime and his uniform slightly less than pristine. But Cavill wasn't about to reprimand the young man on his appearance. He was a remarkable driver after all. "Haggy, are you done with your maintenance?" he asked the younger man. Haggy's antennae perked up immediately as he noticed Cavill. "Yes, sir. We are in perfect running order. I bet I even managed to raise the efficiency of the engine slightly as it seemed to be cleaner than the last time I opened it up. This will in turn give me more power to work with while maneuvering." He started to say, but Cavill cut him off before he could really get going. Yes, that is great to hear, Haggy. Please take your place inside as we are about to roll out." Haggy seemed a bit let down by his reluctance to hear the vaunted attributes of the newly refurbished engine, but did as ordered. Cavill checked his assistant, the small wrist device able to provide a variety of functions. It was almost deployment time, 0900 local time. He clambered back into the tag and settled into his command position, the optics arrayed before him as both electronic screens and old-fashioned periscopes in case of electrical failure. Checking his screens, he saw that they were clear at the rear to depart the park. He looked at his assistant again. 3 minutes till what the dark. Might as well get going a little early, he figured. He picked up the specially designed headset and placed it over his head. The speakers were positioned over the tympanal organs just under his eyes on the front of his head, an arrangement different from many other races that had their hearing organs on the sides of their heads. "Okay, Haggy, start it up, take us out slowly. We aren't in any hurry," he said confidently over the internal comms. Haggy made an affirmative noise and turned the vehicle's main power plant on, the huge biodiesel engine roaring to life. Such was its power that the entire 68 tons of the tag shivered slightly. Haggy began to move them, the huge vehicle juddering slightly as it began to move slowly on its wide tracks. Cavill kept an eye on his screens. He trusted Haggy implicitly, but it never hurt to keep an extra set of compound eyes on the situation. He watched as they crept out into the yard's main lane and then started towards the gates. The Nerevith guard he had spoken to earlier received a notice of scheduled departure and opened the gates for them with a wave. Haggy gave her a small blare of the horn in response.